What would you do if you knew anything was possible for you? My name is Holly Moore and I started an events company 10 years ago from scratch at my dining room table. Join me over the next few weeks and hopefully at the end of it, you will see why anything truly is possible for you. Welcome to another episode of the Anything is Possible podcast. I am super giddy today. Teenpreneurship is a popular culture subject for 2023, and today I have possibly my youngest guest yet, Dan Rhodes, who is 19 years old. Dan the Magic Man has 10 million followers on TikTok and 17 million followers on YouTube. But I met Dan 10 years ago when he was 9 years old. I was doing a party for a client at the Lowry, and I had a magician who tweeted that he was at the Lowry for a particular event. Young Dan the Magic Man was following him on Twitter and decided with his mum Lisa to come to the Lowry Hotel to see if he'd get to meet Damien. As I was escorting Damien out of the function room, out of the party, back to his car, there was young Dan and his mum. Dan, that was a long time ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was so long ago. It's so funny you mention it because, I need to speak close for the mic for this. But yeah, no, it's so mental because it's like, you know, it was strange that dynamic of like how long ago that was when I think it was a very quick time we met you.
Yeah.
Like you literally walked past and went, "Oh, hiya guys." You said,
Yeah.
"Oh, what are you doing here?" Because I think it was you were just probably first time you saw Damien after the gig,
Yeah.
probably going home, whatever. But yeah, it's mental. We've stayed in touch ever since.
Your USP was that you were young
Yeah.
and cute and in a suit, and
Yeah.
and maybe not other kids would have done that. So you did get noticed. I think I remember a time. And again, I saw it on Twitter. You were on a train, weren't you? And all the Coronation Street stars were on there, and you started performing to them, and they started tweeting about you.
Yeah. So what's so funny is like, obviously and we'll get into it in a minute, how I kind of started my social media journey. But my first platform I ever gained a following on of any sort was, I say a following now, it was like maybe 300 followers.
Yeah.
Was on Twitter.
Yeah.
But like, what's so funny is I still don't use Twitter till this day. Like, I probably got like, I don't know, less than 1,000 followers. Like,
Yeah.
I literally do not use my Twitter at all. But what's so funny is, so I was going to London for an audition for because I used to do acting before I got into magic.
Oh, right.
So yeah, I did a bit of acting. And yes, I was going for an audition for, I don't think I ended up getting the part, but we won't talk about that. But yeah, but no, on the way there, I think it was like an award show that night, a TV one. And in first class, found out the Coronation Street cast was there. So I literally just went, right, pack of cards, walk straight through.
So you weren't even in that carriage? You were
No,
just like,
no,
I'm just
they were in first class. I definitely wasn't in first class back then. But no, so yes, I walked straight through first class. Just showed them all card tricks. Then for the full journey there was like taking pictures, like tweeting at me, going, "Oh my god, this kid is like a crazy magician, whatever." And what's so funny is 5 years later, I did another event. I think it was something called Archie's Footprint for Kim Marsh.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's mental is 3 of the cast members that were on that train, I went up to back cards and I didn't think they recognised me because I looked very different years later. And they're like, "Oh my god, you were that kid who went on the train, like a young kid doing tricks." And I just spend so many hours learning tricks at home. Like, it's all I do. I just sit in front of a computer and just soak up information. And when you're younger as well, I find it not harder, but sometimes I'm busy or I just don't have the patience to learn new stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas when I was younger, I loved it that much that I could just spend hours and hours just absorbing everything.
Yeah.
And I think that really benefited. And I think when you're a young kid and you've got any passion, it's them years when you should really double down at it, because then you'll kind of have your answer if it's something you're good at or not. I feel like at a young age, like if you're showing, if any parents are watching that kind of your kid is showing some kind of promise or potential in a certain field, then kind of, you know, say if they're going 1 lesson a week, I'd say maybe 2, 3, see where it takes them, because you know, I think at that young age you're just absorbing information.
That's such good advice, because how so I wasn't going to come to this straight away, but so with school and everything, so how did you do in school? How did you manage your magic and your schoolwork?
Yeah, what's so funny, right, in like I got like high grades in my GCSEs. I did quite well, but before every single exam I ever took before that, I failed like almost everything, because I just think that, like, I hate when people say, they didn't learn anything in school, because of course you learn how to read and write, like you learn the basics that you need, like the necessities. Like I will always appreciate school. I know there'll be someone who said, it wasn't for me. Do you know what I mean? But school, I think, in a sense of kind of the thing that's kind of propagated on you, the kind of, you know, traditional format of a job, in the back of my head at a young age, I think I always knew it wasn't going to be for me. So I always appreciated, like, you know, like learning, going to lessons, but sometimes I just couldn't focus because I'd be thinking about like new tricks to learn, or I'd be thinking about, you know, things like that. And teachers would get like so mad at me. Like in school, I really didn't listen at all. Like it was really bad. Like I learned the basics, and that was literally it. My dad was very pushy to get the grades, and my mum was like, she wanted me to get them, and everyone took. So I think it was kind of a few months before like the exam, because I never did any like revising honestly at all. I think I just thought to myself, right, I've got to try and get them just in case. But I just feel like I just knew I'd never would do it, and not because like I think I'm above doing like not at all. It's just for me, I just do not think I'd ever have the attention for it. Because like with me, I find it really hard to like focus on something if I'm not truly obsessed with it. And it's just like, it sounds like cliche, but it's genuinely how I've always thought.
So what would you do? Like go to school, do what you needed to do, and then just get home and like
learn tricks. Yes, I'd just come home, learn tricks, like watch videos on magic, like watch Dynamo, David Blaine. It was such an obsession, and like when you look back at it, it's weird, because like when you see someone like utterly obsessed with something, when you can't kind of understand where they're coming from, it's kind of weird looking from the outside. But I was just so in like my element, I felt at that point in my life. I was just like absorbing it really. And I think anything that like you attach kind of an emotional significance to when you're at a young age, kind of you're a fan of for life really. And I think that's why I still like it, because you know some of my earliest like years was, I think, just
happy memories.
I think just like in my head, just the person Dan Rhodes or Dan the Magic Man is just a magician as well. Like it's part of my personality, I feel now. So I can't really remember a time much before I did magic, because I started so young. Do you know what I mean? Just
like part of you, like that is who you are. So when you were in school till 16, and then so you've been doing these events, paid £50, all that kind of thing, and then you started to pop up a bit on TV, or had you been doing celebrity events before that? Like what was the journey kind of between there and like reality TV, I guess?
So my goal was always I just wanted to be like a famous magician, even at a young age. Like for whatever reason, like I just, and it's not even in the sense of like, I wanted to be really rich. I just wanted people knowing me. I just kind of loved like the coolness of like someone like a Dynamo or a David Blaine. The fact that they can go up to someone, do amazing tricks, and they do TV shows, do things like that. So I would do so many like events for free at a young age, like where I thought there'd be opportunity to, you know, maybe, you know, get a picture with a famous person, or like you know, or be booked for another event. And how I started was mainly doing a lot of charity events, and then I'd hand out my card there. So I got some business cards made, printed. The first ones I had was terrible. But
I bet I've got one somewhere.
You probably have got one, But I printed them off, and then every event I'd hand out a card, and I'd maybe get like a gig or two from that, like a paid one. And then I was like doing an event every other week maybe for like £100 here and there, and I was like just saving it all. I was so happy at that time, just like at that age. Like, well, what a funny story is, so when I was like 11, 12, I was at this event, and I was doing a trick where, so I've got this trick where someone lifts me up, and I snap, and then they can't lift me. But for a young kid, adults would be like, why can't I lift this kid? It's a trick that I learned off Dynamo actually. I'm watching his show, And what's so funny is some guy bet me, he goes, £20 that I can lift you, and he couldn't, so he gave me the 20 quid. So I thought, you know what? In the genius idea that I thought I had, I just went up to random people at this event and said, can you give me 20 quid if you can't lift me? And a lot of them said yeah to it, and I was just collecting like money. And at the end of the event, I walked off with 500 quid just from all these bets. And then, but one person messaged saying, everyone was fine with it. They was like, oh, little kid, it's cool, 20 quid, whatever. But I don't think I realised that. I was being so like, almost like that you've got no choice, just accept this kind
Give
of
me money.
it was always like that, and it was so looking back it's funny, but yeah, one of the people complained saying I didn't really want to give my 20 quid away, so I donated all the money to the charity from that night.
No
So it was like, so
way.
no one could have like said it was kind of at that time when I was learning magic tricks and doing the acting thing. So did quite a few adverts, did the occasional gig, and then did like just the odd thing.
Yeah.
And I didn't do acting for a good few years, but I was doing the occasional gig.
Yeah.
And then it was one of the best experiences of my life. I was in the West End for a year. I did a Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Did
the
you?
musical, yeah.
Actually, how old were you then?
I
think
was 12 or 13.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah. So I got the role in that, and like I had to go to like 4 auditions in London. Like I didn't think I was going to get it at all because there was like thousands auditioning and only 4 people got the part for the year. So I played Mike TV and I just couldn't like believe that I got it. What's funny is Frozen's actually playing there now in Covent Garden. I was in Covent Garden last week and I went into the theatre and I just told the guy, I used to be in Charlie, so he gave me a tour around like last week, and it was just so cool to see like the set again and stuff. And then but yeah, I'm going on so many tangents, but I'll stick to what I'm saying. But yeah, so I did Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and then did that for a year. And then after that I just wanted to focus on magic, so I haven't done acting since I was like 12, just done the gigs really. Little Big Shots was like after I did the acting thing, so that was just basically the first YouTube video I ever got made after being a big fan of Dynamo. It's weird how it all kind of intertwines, but so I made this YouTube video called Dan the Magic Man, and Dan the Magic Man was something that like my dad or mum was used to call me all the time, but like Dan the Magic Man was like, I thought, that's a fitting name, you know, that's a good stage name for a magician. So the first YouTube video was made by my next door neighbour called Jimmy, called Dan the Magic Man. So he made that video. And literally after that video got posted, my mum tweeted it to Dynamo loads of times. He didn't respond for a while. She kept tweeting it. And I think my mum sent a bit of like a passive aggressive tweet that was like, I've sent you this tweet 10 times, you still haven't responded. And then he responds, he likes the tweet and he's like, wow, this is really cool. And then my mum's like, oh, thanks so much. Like, I was only joking. I don't know, but it was so funny because she was
like Kris Kardashian vibes,
isn't she? She just really wanted Dynamo to see this video, but I respect the persistence with sending it. But so she sent that video, and then Dynamo was getting interviewed, and he said, has anyone showed you a trick that's impressed you? And they said, there was this young kid, he sent me this video, Dan the Magic Man, and I really like him and whatnot. So I went to his book signing, did a few more gigs, and that video just kind of sat on YouTube, had maybe like 1,000 views, which I thought really cool. And then I think it was like a producer just typed in magicians on YouTube, because I did the American one first. So I did the one with Steve Harvey first for NBC in America. A producer found it. Her name was Kat Egrady. And she found my YouTube clip from America, sent us an email, asked if we wanted to see the show. So we flew out to LA a few months later, did the show. And when I was there, it was like a franchise Little Big Shots. So they had loads of different ones. And I think they were in touch with the producers in the UK one. And we actually got the email when we were in LA saying, do you want to do the UK version? So did the American one, did the UK one a few months after that. And then that was it really. It was a really fun experience that I did that. Then the Britain's Got Talent thing was like a couple of years after that. I went on Britain's Got Talent to do like, they wanted me to do this trick like sawing a lady in half like Amanda Holding. So I did that. That was a good opportunity. But it was all kind of like, I feel like to really build something, it's just momentum. So like, I wasn't doing like loads of gigs, but it was occasional. And it was just before lockdown when I was I'd do the occasional Instagram video, but I had like 10,000 followers. And
but by the way, that is a lot, to have 10,000 followers.
Because it was when I was like 14 or 15, I thought, right, I want to make content online. So I'd post like one video a week, but it'd just be something very simple, like me just doing a trick to camera, something flashy like that. Just like no effort gone into it. And then just before lockdown, I was like, I'm going to do gigs full time now, because they were really starting to come in. Because I was getting a bit older, it was easier for me to get to the events. For example, I went into Manchester, and I don't think I mentioned this on the podcast before, but I went to every restaurant, like Albert Slosh, I went to think, and I just said, I'd love to do entertainment. Cause I literally went up to the bar, said, can I speak to the manager, please? They were like, why do you want to speak to the manager? I went, I just really want to have a chat with him. Said, I need to know what it's regarding. I said, entertainment. They're like, entertainment.
You're probably underage then at that point.
Yeah, I was. I actually was. So the manager came over. They were all sat down at the computers, showed him a trick, went, hi, my name's Dan. Card trick, blew them all away. And I said, I'd love to do a residency here. And they said, yeah, sure, like, come every Sunday, like, 100 quid, and then you can get tips as well. So, like, great, so that's sorted. And I got another residency at another one for every Wednesday. And I did this all in the space of just because I thought to myself, if I just knock on every door for 3 hours and just show them my tricks and say I'd like to do a residency, then that'd work really well. So just before lockdown, I was like earning quite a good amount of like money from these gigs. I was like, wow, if I really keep this momentum up, I can do gigs all the time. And then obviously lockdown happened, and I was still in college at the time, so it was quite hard to always be free. Because I did a BTEC in creative media, because I had to do something from like 16 to 18. So
noted.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I did what am I saying now? Yeah, did that, and then lockdown hit, and instead of just complaining that I had nothing to do, started posting a lot on TikTok. Yeah. And then it literally blew up from there. So I've done social media since. So for the last like 2 years. So I think I started lockdown with maybe 100,000 on TikTok because I posted a few. And then I went to like 1 million in about a year. And then I think when I was on about 4 million, YouTube released shorts. Yeah. And what was perfect for me was I had a massive library of content to post from TikTok that I kept on a hard drive. So when shorts came, my first few videos went viral, and I went from 17k to like 1 million in 2 weeks on YouTube. And I think for like 5 months I was the most subscribed, the fastest growing channel in the world for like 5 months. Wow. But yeah, that was like an insane thing, and I'm still doing YouTube now, but I just couldn't believe how fast it like grew legs, and I was just like...
Well, I'm going to come to that in a minute, because we might even pull that out as a separate episode, because literally from what you've said, I am writing notes and notes and notes, and I don't want to forget to ask you a lot of this. So just some tips for our listeners. So for example, like knock on a door for 3 hours, even if I get like a couple of gigs, like that is such an amazing. So say anybody that's in like direct sales, like we're selling sponsorship or tickets at the moment for Anything Is Possible. When you actually put it like that, if I do this for 3 hours, I might get one thing that makes it worth it. So I think that's such a good pull out. When you said you wanted to be a famous magician, would you write goals like that down, or are they just in your head?
So like, I started believing a lot in like the law of attraction in the universe. Like at the start of the start of lockdown, I read the book The Secret, and then and I actually made a video called it's on my YouTube channel now. It's got 3,000 views. It's called like the law of attraction, and I talk about I want to be a famous magician someday. And it's a video saying like I'll definitely do it. Like, and I was on 100 subscribers at the time. Wow. And I'll try and I'll pull up the video for you and show you. But I said that, and then I was just like, I genuinely believe that anyone can do it as long as they really put in the work for it. And I think that's it. It's like it's just like logical when your mind really wants something, it's all you'll think about and do. So you'll start seeing opportunities like more. Like I'd say for you, Holly, like. Say when you were starting your company, if you was in a room and you decided to yourself, I want to build my company more, and you shake the hands with like someone who could you could both mutually benefit, but they could get you to another level. You're going to chat with them, you're going to interact, you're going to network, whereas you start seeing doors open, whereas other people would just see that as another person. And I think that was the case with me with magic. Everyone I was meeting, I was trying, and it's all like, so everyone wants to do something for, to better themselves. And I think that's fine admitting, because as long as I always believe that it's okay if you want to benefit out of something as long as you're providing value. So if you go up to someone empty-handed and say, just help me, then there's nothing to provide. Whereas if you have leverage to offer, then you're bettering yourself and almost using their assets to help you, but you're also helping them. So I think that was kind of a mindset even at a young age, that if I show someone magic and show them some cool things, I say, could I do an event for you? Even though I'm doing that event for free, it's still you know, it's putting me in a room with people that I wouldn't be able to meet anywhere else. You know what I mean? So it's always, I think it's always thinking to yourself, it's also about not getting instant kind of rewards. Because I remember when I was doing these free gigs and magicians were saying to me, oh, I'd never do an event for free. You need to know your value. And I'm like, but... So you're telling me that if like Ed Sheeran had an event where you could show him some magic tricks, get a picture with him, you're not going to do it for free. Do you know what I mean? It's all about seeing these opportunities, and I think it's very important because I genuinely believe that anyone can like earn as much money as they want, like grow as big as they want, like do anything as long as they really do put the work in. And it sounds like such a cliche because I used to hear like people say that in videos and I'd just be like, oh no, they got lucky or they did this or did that. But like genuinely, like you can, if you just like think about it logically, like break down the steps of what would get you to your goal.
I could literally listen to you all day. I feel like I want to book you as my business coach.
Motivational speaker.
Yeah, definitely. So do you write things down then? Like, do you set like timely goals and stuff like that?
Yeah, so this is another one. So at the start of 2020, I put 5 million, no, 2020 or 2021, I can't remember, but I put down 5 million, get 5 million followers, earn £100,000, and then I put down like some other goals or something, and like one other, and then like and then I just looked at it every day, and then in like I think it was in 6 months I achieved all the goals, and it was like I couldn't, and I couldn't like that's why I genuinely believe in like that if you not manifest, but just if you really believe in something and want to do it, I feel like you can. Like if you, and then it's like, and then I write down new goals every year, of just like, you know, milestones I want to achieve really.
And what do you dedicate time to that? Like, is it a set time or is it just like, oh, feeling it now, I'm going to go sit down and write some goals, or do you plan that time in?
I think it's like, I think my little ritual is like start of the year.
Yeah.
Like I'll write on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
And then I just write it down on a piece of paper. So I think I haven't wrote the next year's ones yet, but that time will come soon.
Do you do vision boards or anything, like stick up pictures and things like that, or?
Not really. I think when I don't want to do something, but I kind of just envision like things I want, so to kind of push me through. So I'm like, and I think to myself, oh, well, if this was easy, like everyone would do it, so that's why I've got to do it. Do you know what I mean? That's why sometimes how I think about it, but. It's like I just feel like I'm so still early on with it as well. Like I've got so much more to do.
You are. I mean, like how to achieve what you've achieved now, and you've probably got that 5 times over. You know, another 4. Do you know what I mean? That's just insane. Yeah. And when you were earning all this money, and you mentioned saving, so are you a saver or are you a spender?
I think, to be honest, there's not much stuff I buy really.
But you have got one thing that you really like, haven't you, that we were talking about before? Do you want to touch on that? Yeah,
I'm into watches a lot, just because basically my dad was always into watches. He had like a Tag Heuer watch when I was younger. I just remember like holding it and thinking this is like a quality watch, and there's just something about like just a watch that I've always liked. So when I did Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the first money I earned from that, I actually bought a Rolex with. It was all the money I had. But my mum was like, yeah, do it. My dad was like, don't be an idiot. And then but I still ended up doing it.
How old were you when you got your first
14.
Rolex?
Yeah, with all the Charlie, literally it's all the money I'd done, like the money I got for the year for doing the show. I bought like the session one I've got on, and it's just when I was 14 I got it, and then so.
Magicians are meant to steal watches.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, to be honest, that was just a cover story. I stole it from when I was at an event. It's actually at your event. I was at one of Holly's events, and there were loads of rich people with the watches, and I stole them all. And that sounds, sold them all. No, but yeah, no. So that happened, and then when my social media started doing well, then I, got a few watches and stuff, because that's what what I've been into really. Yeah. So yeah.
So in a minute, I'm gonna deep dive into the social and the content creation, because I think that's going to be so interesting for everyone. But first of all, I want to take you back again. and talk about the fact that you've got Asperger's and you were diagnosed with that. What age?
I can't remember. I think it was like maybe I was 9 or something like that. I can't remember.
And you've said, I've heard you say in another podcast that when you look back, there were maybe signs of it. What would those signs have been?
I think, honestly, like, it was just my kind of obsessive sort of personality. Now, what's so funny is what I'm realising more and more is so many more people are on the spectrum. Like, I meet people...
That do well.
Daily, yeah. But are just undiagnosed, because there's a massive generation of people that have, like... I meet older people all the time, and I can just tell by the personality traits that they're definitely somewhat on the spectrum. And the thing is, it's such, like, a vast sort of... spectrum. It's not like black and white. So I think with me, my Asperger's was just like my obsessive sort of personality with anything, and I had quite bad social skills in terms of it'd just be little things like, say if someone, you know, bought me a present for my birthday, I wouldn't know to say thank you. Not because it was like, and after my mum would have to remind me to say that, not because it was like me being rude, it was just like, or if someone waved at me, I wouldn't know to wave back. It was little things like that. I'd take everything literally. But I think because I worked so much on like understanding and that, like I look at like old things I'd say and do, and I just like almost laugh now. So I think I'm more on like the page of, I'd say, more like people who don't have it, because I understand now.
So how did you do that then? So when you knew you had it, how did you learn all about it to kind of educate yourself? So I guess you almost got obsessed with that. I'm going to find out what it means.
Yeah, I kind of got obsessed with that, and then I kind of more like, because I had like, I think a lot of people with Asperger's have bad social kind of interactions and don't understand social intelligence. But I think because I just wanted to work on being better at that. I think magic really helped with that. I think without magic, because if I had no reason to speak to someone, in a sense, I wouldn't know how to start a convo. Whereas if I go up to someone, pack of cards, pick a card, they'd ask me questions, I'd respond. And over time, just kind of doing that, I think that built my confidence where, like, obviously I don't need to chat with someone to do a card trick now. Like, I don't even do them that much anymore. But I think that really helped me break out my shell and just kind of learning about it, really. But I really don't see it as like a big difference or anything. I just think it just means that a characteristic of my personality is that, like, I get very obsessed with certain things.
But then you have actually said that is actually what's made you so successful. So if you were asked, would you know, how would I put this the right way, would you rather have Asperger's or not, what would you say? No,
I definitely have it. I just think that
I love that.
I never just want to be normal. I don't think anyone's normal, because the thing is, like, I read this quote once, said anyone that's there's no such thing as, the only person who's normal is someone you don't know well enough. And it's so true, because the first time you meet people, they're like it's even like, obviously with meeting you today, like, I've met you before, and like obviously we talk to each other in like a kind of, not formal, but like, no, but like, I'm sure with other people you're completely different, and I'm completely different with other people, in a sense where it's like you show your different sides. You mirror who you're with sometimes. And there's such a different person. But I just think there's no such thing as normal. And I just, I'm glad I've got it, and I don't really think it's the only thing that, it doesn't annoy me, but it's the reason I don't mention it a lot, just because there's no education with people understanding what it is. But also on the complete flip side of that, it's one of them where unless someone knows you, I don't think everyone should be educated about it, because I think you should always judge like the majority as the main thing. So like, say for example, there's like, how do I give a really good analogy of this? I just think, for example, if someone doesn't have Asperger's, or no one in the family, in the immediate family's got autism, then they shouldn't have to spend hours going down the rabbit hole learning what this means, what that means, what that, like, you know what I mean? Like, I see some people when they say, there needs to be more education about this or that or this, and I'm like, there can be awareness, but like, you know, you don't need to shove something down someone's throat, do you know what I mean? And I think a lot of the time, the reason I don't mention it is because some people who might have a following and stuff like that, I feel like they try to almost be an advocate for saying, I've got this, but it's never affected me negatively.
You've seen it as a positive.
Yeah, so I wouldn't really feel comfortable I don't even call it a disorder, or I wouldn't be comfortable like kind of saying it like that.
Being a spokesperson about it.
Because there's some people who have some people on the spectrum who've, you know, because there's a big difference between, because like Asperger's is like classed as, without me sounding like egotistical, as like high functioning autism, whereas normal autism is like learning difficulty. So like there's a big difference there, because like Alan Turing, for example, who cracked the Enigma codes, he had Asperger's. Like there's loads of people who've like Johnny Depp has it. Like
does he?
Yeah, like they say probably Einstein had it as well. Like
Really?
so it's they would have had bad social intelligence, but it just completely depends. I think the main thing of, I'm not a specialist in it, but the main thing about Asperger's is just like the obsessiveness. But also like, the thing is, the people with autism are on a different spectrum. They might have normal learning difficulties, but in different ways. The mind is like incredible, like the way they see things, and that's so it's. I feel like they just see the world differently, different people.
I have heard of like, and I know some entrepreneurs, like millionaires that own businesses, that would have high functioning Asperger's. And you wouldn't know. You just think you're just super intelligent and like super on it. We've got somebody quite close as a friend and to the business whose little boy is like at the moment non-verbal. He's just had his diagnosis. And you know, his parents now are navigating, how do we make life better for him. And actually he said he's glad he's had the diagnosis now, because when they were saying, oh well, he's not doing this or he's not doing this, people were like, oh, he'll grow out of it, he'll grow out of it, and they were like, because it's more severe, we know he won't, and we want, so for them now to have that diagnosis, to be able to say and get the right care is, you know, but I think, you know, we've talked a lot on this podcast about OCD and the awareness about that. People are just not aware. And I had a bit of a rant on LinkedIn yesterday with someone that flippantly said something about OCD, and I'm not angry with them, because the education piece isn't there, but if you're going to mention something in a conversation, at least read a paragraph about it. Or
that's 100% what I mean. I think what it is like, you'll get I'm happy to talk about it with like anyone, to like tell them my kind of my story and finger, but I think because there is that lack of like foundation around it, that someone will think of it like almost all the same, like people, where it's such a vast kind
different,
of because I'd say like, you know, like with OCD, that's like a thing in itself, like dyslexia, like you know, autism, like thing, like all these kind of things that are all, and I don't like when people call them disorders, because I wouldn't say it's a disorder if you like compare it to the majority of people, but in other ways it's not always like that, do you know what I mean?
Well, you've obviously seen it as a positive thing, and it's what's made you unique, that's why amazing.
That's the other thing, like that's why I mentioned it as a good thing, because like I've had people before going, oh, how do you feel that you've, like, do you wish you didn't have it, or do you like have a, like, how do you feel about having the, because some people call my Asperger's a disorder. I think that's the wrong way of saying it. I just don't feel it is at all. Like, just because my mind works a bit differently, but I feel like with other people on the spectrum, it definitely affects them negatively sometimes. And I think there needs to be that, like, if you're gonna go down the rabbit hole, then just learn a lot about it all, or just kind of, I don't know if I'm articulating what I'm trying to say,
you
right?
Definitely are. I mean, I think what you're saying is, you know, there's a massive spectrum of autism, Asperger's, different things like that, and you know, not all of them are negative, and you've used yours to fuel, and the education that you've educated yourself to almost fight it, which is amazing. So that takes us nicely back on to being obsessed with things, and I get obsessed with things, so that's great. So content creation. So you did a creative media BTEC. So that's answered a lot of questions. Why you're so good? What do you do in a creative media BTEC?
I've got to be honest, because so the first year I did BTEC, it was very much more like, it talked about kind of content, and it was like short films and podcasting is what it talked about. But it was more in a sense of like traditional media, where even though you'd think it's the exact same as like social media content, it still is completely different in my opinion. Because it was very much, you know, I do like 10 kind of essays on like what a certain camera angle's called, or like finger. And a lot of it the first year was just practical. That's why I actually moved out of it, because we did like one thing where we filmed like a Doritos advert and like did that. But I think it was good. But I just believe anything that is creative, I genuinely believe that because it's so base by base, I genuinely believe that you should think about just trying to do it yourself and learn.
Yeah.
And I know it sounds dumb because obviously if you want to be a doctor or like a scientist or some job that requires a written educate, then do it. But I genuinely believe anything like performing arts.
Yeah.
Obviously performing arts you can go to certain schools, but things like, you know, acting or digital media or like filming or, you know, podcasting, I'd try and do it yourself because they can only really tell you kind of it's like this. So for example, everyone in there knew like what these different camera angles called, but I just couldn't be bothered kind of like, or how to, what this shot's called, a wide shot, a long, the theory behind film, all this. But if you're just kind of well written, it doesn't mean you can. The way to get good at something is just doing it.
Yeah.
Like in a sense where, for example, you could have a footballer that did terribly in school, got like, you know, never got a single grade, yet he plays for, you know, United or City or Liverpool, whatever it may be. But then you could have someone who studied football for 2 years at school and knows the name of every player that's ever existed, knows all the names of different kicks of the ball, knows, you know what I mean, knows all the on paper, but is he going to be anywhere near as good as this guy who probably might not even know the names of this or that or what this called, but he's just naturally gifted because he's gone through the motion
and just done it rather than the theory.
Because I feel like a lot of people do come out of uni and it's kind of a shock for them because they're so used to doing everything like methodically, like having deadlines of writing this. But I think like for example, you could spend a week doing, saying you're going to do a podcast with someone and then they might be busy or like you can't do it, or like you could be pitching something. You could literally be working on an event and it could just fall through, or you could literally just, there's so many, I know it's a random analogy.
No, that's actually a really good example.
But there's so many things where there's so many more risks when you do it yourself. But through doing it with years, you don't take things as seriously.
Yeah.
So like I'm quite numb to things now because I've had quite a lot of ups and downs with certain things, and nothing compared to like most people, like just ups and downs throughout my journey. Then I feel like if something falls through or thingy, I'm not as upset by it. But say if someone's been to uni for 4 years, they've got all the written work done, they've done these films, they've done these projects, then they go in the real world, they pitch for 2 weeks for a film, don't get any money for it, something like this, and then doesn't work, then they've got to go, all right, next.
Because it's resilience. They've not built up the resilience.
But what, it's so dumb because it's just a completely different mindset. Because in my opinion, spending years doing work that doesn't result to anything, it just results to a piece of paper. Literally, I know this doesn't apply to everything. It's more of jobs.
No, but this is about having an opinion.
I'm just saying in like specifically jobs where it's business based or something where you could kind of do it in your own hands. I just think that from like age 18 to 25 or 30 is when you've got the most fire in your belly, like the most kind of, you want to make something happen. And I think sometimes people do waste like a good few years doing work that is a thing. Not, obviously it's a completely different path for different people, but I just think some people should know that like if you really commit to like doing a business or thingy, you can really do well at that and thrive at it.
Well, a lot of people say that in events because we obviously have a lot of people that do their event degree, which is amazing and a great experience if you want to do the uni experience. But then when they come and do a placement or they start their job, they're like, oh wow, like. But they have.
It has like not much utility because you just got you haven't got real world contacts. You haven't got like the foundation of anything. You haven't learned how to prepare for worst case scenario things like. And the thing is, you could read up why this wouldn't work. It's almost like, I think human beings just in general, we don't learn our lesson until it goes wrong. So like it doesn't matter if we're doing like, you know, like for example, if you did an event, someone did an events course and they said not to do this, you know, it's better in my opinion to literally get it all wrong, like when you're young as well, because you could be doing it for 2 years, not achieved anything financially yet, but all the knowledge and wisdom, you know what the do's and don'ts, because like you could genuinely do something wrong again and again and again. The second it goes wrong, then you're like, oh, I've learnt my lesson. Like, but some people are just, they just don't learn the lesson.
So true. So you did the course, but really it's been in the do. So I am going to ask you a few questions about, I guess, my business, because then hopefully people can relate to it, which would be really good. So we do quite well off Instagram in that we get inquiries. This is for Make Events, my events business. Yeah. We will get inquiries. We get
10th
a lot of
birthday. When was that?
Oh, July.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. And we'll get people, like a lot of people applying for jobs because they love what they see on Instagram. But we've just gone up to 6,000 followers. But bear in mind, we've been going 10 years and we stuck at around 5 for ages. We post like daily stories, the grid, like, you know, what is your, without kind of, you know, interrogating it, but what's your advice, say on Instagram, for example? Yeah.
Instagram's like a weird platform now because like Meta and Facebook, so the way a lot of these platforms do well in their infancy is like just organic reach. So like there was a lot of creators that blew up massively on Instagram and Facebook. Now it's a bit harder to grow because it's more of like they have a lot of targeted ads where you pay for like something to be seen more, like on Facebook and things of that nature. And same with TikTok isn't like that. So the reason TikTok blew up so much is because if it's a good piece of content, then organically it'll do well. And same thing with, so my Instagram isn't like, I don't really plug it or post that much on it, but compared to my YouTube, it's quite like not as many followers at all. It's in the hundreds of thousands, but like not nothing crazy. But I think what it is just kind of making, because I think the difference between like having a niche audience and having something more vast spread. So I think there is value in that because, for example, magic is very like universal. So like sometimes some of my magic videos that have gone the most viral are the ones where I'm not talking in them. It's a bit like the analogy where, you know, like the Mr. Bean film, the reason it did so well is because it could be understood in so many different languages. It's the same sort of thing. So even though I've got a massive audience on that, there might be another YouTuber with 2 million followers, but because it's a niche, they can sell a lot more and they can do like, there's difference with everything. So like, I know like a guy called Adrian who sells like watch straps, no, super random. He has like 100,000 followers. But
they're engaged, like
they're so engaged because it's niche. So I think the fact that it's 6,000 is still very good because it's like, it's in that realm of like, you know, because like a day-to-day person might like watch a magic trick or a skit and follow, whereas like with an events company, because it's quite niche. So I'd think if you wanted to reach a wider audience, just making content that would appeal to more people that aren't necessarily, because I see it very much a lot of times they set things up like a business page, which it should be because it's a business, of course. But if it's just like, oh, it should be more like showing the event, like come to it, like kind of, and
like
maybe that's what
like
you do.
come to life
that sort of thing. But me and Holly are going to be doing some videos soon.
We are.
Giving her a masterclass. But no, I just think more like things that can make sense for anyone looking, and then it can bring a new audience really.
Okay, so we've set up a TikTok for Make Events and anything is possible, but we've only done a couple of posts. So starting from scratch, let's say anything's possible. So it's an empowerment brand, it's a conference, it's all about believe you can do anything at any age and inspiring people through stories. So top level, starting from scratch, what would you think we should be doing?
I think the biggest thing with social media when like something's new is consistency. I think like very much so. Like during lockdown I was doing like 3 videos a day for like every day for like
on TikTok.
On TikTok this was.
Right.
So I think it's about finding like what niche your content's in, and then kind of you can use little hacks like using the most trending songs like sounds when you're posting the video, making it very snappy. So say if the start of a video question, because people are scrolling, so it's very important that you capture their attention the first second
straight away,
like instantly. So like whether it's, say if it's from one of your events and you was filming a montage, the first clip they see is like confetti cannon, just boom. Like for example, so the second, so things that capture attention, or say if it was a clip from a podcast, you wouldn't start it from like here, you'd start it where you would, for example, say if you asked me a question like, what is, say if you was interviewing a billionaire, and you said, you was having a normal conversation and you said, what is your number one tip for making millions? So you'd start the clip exactly there.
Yeah.
What is your number one? So like, phrase that to hook them instantly.
Yeah.
Because if it's just chatting or if it's just a random clip out of place, then it's not really gonna.
Yeah.
And it needs to be very snappy, to the point, edited well. Like, it's just, there's so many little things, but I think the main one is consistency and just trying to make good content. As bad, because I used to hate when people used to say that, but it generally just turned out to be like, on TikTok I've posted over 2,000 videos, and on YouTube I've posted over like 1,400. So it really is just.
And at the moment on TikTok, we'll be putting this out a bit after, we're in November at the moment, but what are the biggest trends on TikTok at the moment for posting, would you say? I
don't really check it that much.
Yeah.
I used to consume a lot of TikTok and YouTube and stuff, but I don't really watch them as heavily anymore. I just kind of post, and then, because it's kind of my job now, I just like, for my entertainment, I watch like a podcast on Netflix or something like that. I do watch some other YouTubers, but in terms of short form, I don't watch it as much.
And so that's great. So we need to set ourselves a goal of doing 3 stories a day and see how that grows, and then we can report it back to you. What about YouTube? So again, with the podcast, I've been really passionate about going out on location and not doing it on Zoom. So we've been to Ibiza, London, we're going to Paris. Just because I wanted the content to be interesting and engaging. But obviously, as you do the podcast, most of the listeners, the viewers, are through Spotify and Apple. We have had some views on YouTube. How would you say that, what's your advice on growing that side of things?
I think it's like making clips that, like, because obviously a lot of people listen to podcasts as well, like you said, on Apple and Spotify, but I think the appeal should be that the stuff that's visually kind of, entertaining in it. So like you said, just creating some short clips from the content that's really engaging, with like a good caption and good music in the background, sort of thing,
and put them on YouTube. And what kind of length would you say they should be?
You could start with shorts, but then kind of posting that and then pinning in the comments full length here. So like showing little, because you could get like 10 teasers per podcast if you really find the best bit, if it's like colourful, well edited. I can show you some examples of some podcast clips that have done that. But I think doing loads of them where it plugs the long form one will do really well as well.
Oh, amazing. And what about hashtags? What's your advice on
hashtags have never it's a myth. It really is. Like, hashtags don't mean anything on any platform.
Really?
Absolutely nothing. They don't do anything at all.
Wow.
So yeah, that's a big one. Some people disagree. Like, honestly, this sounds so like dumb or like big-headed, but the way I know someone doesn't know a thing about social, if they're could claim that if someone's selling a course, like claiming they're an expert at something, and they mention one thing about hashtags, I know that they don't know anything. It's just they just don't do it.
Well, I think what we'll do off the back of this is we'll set ourselves some goals for podcasts, because Dolly, that works with me, she started doing our TikTok. So we'll set some goals and then we'll report back to you on how they work.
Perfect. Please do.
She loves the TikTok.
How long have you been doing the podcast for?
So we started on the 6th of September.
Right, it's not long at all.
So, and to be fair, like, we're, the team all work for Make Events, which is busy anyway. So we're doing it kind of here and there and when we can. Sorry, go on.
No, 100%. No, I was just going to say, I think the biggest tip to any podcast as well is just because I want to do on Monday, is just it's a long-term thing, because it's like a library, especially on YouTube, where the content is just there. So say, for example, if it's going at a kind of a normal person's, and then you get on a massive guest, and then, for example, it gets loads of views, it just picks up in the right way, they will then go and watch all the other ones. So it's like, it's definitely a long-term play. So for example, I know people who have podcasts where the first 3 years didn't get insane views, but it got decent views, and then all of a sudden it took off. So I think as long as you're consistent, there's nothing that'll stop doing really well.
And how would you encourage people to subscribe so they get the updates? Is it simply just saying it at the end?
I think it's just literally, if you guys watching right now, make sure you like and subscribe and leave a comment. I think it's about, throughout the podcast, with all the podcasts, always doing call to actions. I read this the other day. Yeah, because call to actions it's not like a false thing at all. It's the biggest thing that's helped me grow. It's the amount of videos where I've done a magic trick and I've gone, watch the card. Actually, if you've got it in your mind, hit the like button or just a joke like that. But it's got loads because you mentioned it. Because I see if someone's scrolling and you tell them to subscribe, you might get 4 who subscribe.
Yeah.
Whereas you might have only got 1 out of them 5 in the
Yeah.
past because it's just an extra reminder. Oh yeah, I'll subscribe. So if you start a podcast like, hi guys, thanks for coming on. Hit like and subscribe and let's get. And if I was you, I would start. So a lot of people, I've been thinking about this recently, every podcast you listen to, it starts with an introduction, like thingy. I think people now live, like, I think we're in an attention-based economy.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, everything is literally based on attention. So like, for someone to watch someone's podcast to an end, it has to be so intriguing that you can't take the time for granted ever. So for example, because this person, we used to live in a world where like you could only watch 3 TV shows, you'd listen to the news in the morning. Now there's so much content and there's only so much someone can watch. So like, say if someone was watching this one, other than watching this, they could be watching a Netflix show right now, they could be out with their friends, they could be doing, so you've just got to make sure that it's very engaging and popping. So if like, what I'd do is I'd start the podcast with like an insane question. Just literally the second they click the video, you ask them something or show them a clip so instead, if the first thing they see, it's good having an introduction, but I think pick like your favorite clip from the podcast and then start the podcast with that, and then have like an introduction or something, and just to make the start very snappy. So when they're not clicking it, because I feel, you know what I mean, just try and think outside the box with it, and like kind of maybe you can have segments in it where it's like a fast Q&A segment, and then so everyone knows kind of what the format is, like have a new format of every like episode and stuff like that, and like have one where just talk about random facts. Because I did one with Mini Minter recently, who's part of the Sidemen. He's called and he's got a big channel called What's Good, and with his it's like he starts it with instantly like just having a chat about something, and then he'll do like quick fire questions, and then they'll do, so it's all different things to try, and it's kind of like to keep someone's attention, you want something to go like this. It's like when you listen to someone who's a monotone speaker, it gets boring because it's on the same level. Where someone goes high and low and down and they whisper and then they, you know, like all things like that. It's the same thing with a podcast. I think it's about changing the tone a lot because it lasts so long. If it starts just having a chat and then you just quick fire questions, then there's this, then there's that. It's just like that with their attention. So I think that's like one of the most important things with it.
Well, while you've just said that, we'll just have a quick ad break. Can you please all subscribe?
Yes.
Do the like button. What else am I going to say?
Hit like, hit subscribe. And also tell us in the comments which guests you'd like Holly to have on in the future as well. Because if there's someone who, you know, it shows that you're interested in having in, then you could reach out to them, and then
Dan's going to come and work for us, hopefully.
Yeah. Part-time job.
Okay, well, we're nearly coming to the end of the podcast, but what I want to just do is, you've got a book out.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people have a dream to write a book. How the hell do you make that happen?
Yeah, so I can't believe it, because what's mental is like the first book signing I ever went to was Dynamo's, and I said to myself, well, yeah, I'd love to do a book one day, and this is the book. It's called Dan Rhodes The Magic. Thought I'd give it a plug here, but yeah, it's kind of like, I'll give you a quick flick through. It's kind of like hints and tips on like how I got into magic. It talks about, you know, just everything to do with magic, like how people can grow on social media. There's 30 tricks in there. It talks about like life stories of mine, so like ways I've used magic to cheat and get away with stuff, and just a bunch of random things.
Oh, amazing.
Jam-packed inside, so yeah.
Fantastic.
I'm signing this one for Holly. This is your one.
Yay, we'll put that in our little book club at work.
Yeah.
So Dan, 19 years old, so many more to go. What is going to be on that vision board next year?
I think for next year is just to keep growing and making long form videos. So right now it's a lot of short form content, which is great for growing, but I want to start doing long form, more vlogs and stuff. And just keep it going. Like, I think I'll be doing this job for like just making videos for the next at least 5-10 years. So just going to keep at it, really.
And to finish the podcast, we always ask our guests the same question. What does anything is possible mean to you?
I think that's such a good saying as well, because it relates with my magic as well. I just think anything is possible is like, if anyone's ever done anything, you can do it. And there's still such a large majority of people who would listen to something like this and genuinely think through the way people have told you, like, because the majority of people, they don't mean to be, but a lot of people, when it comes to something that's outside of the normal mode, are always very, like, the negative, but without even knowing it. So, like, it's like, even with me, with teachers, when I told certain ones I wanted to be a magician, they'd be like, oh, that's not going to work, you need a backup plan. It's instantly, it's not, yeah, that's great, but it's always like, there's always a but, you know, it's always, and the thing is, I genuinely believe, unless you dedicate yourself 100% in one direction, then, because if the thought of a backup mind's in the back of your head, it's like, you've just got to go full steam ahead. And I genuinely believe that no one who's ever done all the right things to get to where they're going isn't going to achieve the goals. It just doesn't happen. It's like, I've never seen anyone who's gone to, like, a gym, for example, for like I used to always use this analogy because someone told it me, but like, it's like, when you achieve your first goal, the next one becomes more tangible.
Yeah.
So it's like, say if you've started a job and started your own business and you haven't earned any money for months, second you earn money, it gives you leverage in a whole other way, because it's like you've reached a target.
Yeah.
Same way if you'd be going to the gym, which I never go to the gym, I'm like terrible. But if I went to the gym for 3 weeks and I was sore and I was putting in all this work and I wasn't seeing any changes, it's hard. But if one day I look in the mirror and, like, I see a slight change, then it gives you momentum to keep going. And I think it's the same thing as no one who's ever, like I said, gone to the gym every week has not achieved the goals, the same way that, you know, no one who's ever dedicated their entire kind of life to doing well with something. You just got to have that self-belief that no matter what happens, you will do it, and you will. Like, the difference is between someone who did and didn't is just the one that just didn't give up. And I know it just sounds like too good to be true, like too cliche. Like, I just remember hearing it so much by, like, successful people watching them, but I promise you it is true. Like, if you genuinely put work in, obviously there's exceptions to certain things, but in the realms of possibility, like, if your goal is to be, like, I don't know, like a millionaire or, like, be a thing, then it's very doable. Like, for anyone.
You've honestly, because I'm into goal setting, I'm on vision and manifesting, but you've changed my mind on quite a lot of things today. And after this podcast, I'm going to write some goals down. Yeah. And go, like, all in on them. It maybe even just 3, and then I'm going to report back to you on how I've done, because you have changed the way that I've thought today.
Oh wow, success. That's good.
Dan, it's been a pleasure to get to know you over the last decade. I'm so excited for the next few for you, and thank you so much for being on the podcast. We love you.
Thank you for having me. Everyone subscribe. We'll see you soon. Bye.